Let's go to our panel now. In Karachi is Miftah Ismail. He's Pakistan's former finance minister and a senior politician with the opposition PML-N party. Shahbaz Gill is in Lahore. He's the chief spokesman for the ruling PTI party's chief minister of Punjab. And journalist and political analyst Zahid Hussain joins me from Islamabad. Good to have you all on the program. Miftah Ismail. So Imran Khan campaigned on an anti-corruption ticket, and he's now doing the work that needs to be done, no more, no less. Do you disagree with that?
Yes, I do disagree with that. It's okay for them to even arrest the opposition politicians if there are serious charges against them. There's nothing against that. We're not running away from accountability. But you see that a lot of PTI ministers have cases against them and they are not arrested. They are free to roam around. And yet the opposition politicians are the only ones being arrested. So this one-sided accountability doesn't make sense. And just these hurling these accusations, Imran hasn't been in the government now for over a year or almost a year, and he should have come up with some white paper about detailing the corruption. That hasn't happened. There is not a single proof of any corruption against any of the Muslim League leaders. And yet, you know, our leader is incarcerated. You know, his nephew is incarcerated. And the Shahbaz Sharif, our president, was in jail for a little while. And yet, you know, similar cases against PTI leaders like the defense minister, like the KP chief minister, his secretary himself, Imran himself, in a helicopter case, they're out on the street. So what we are asking for is even treatment. But this government is not interested in even treatment. It's just trying to persecute its opposition, and I think it's nothing to do with any campaign against corruption, really.
Okay, so Shahbaz Gill, is that the truth? It's okay to be corrupt if you're PTI, but if you're a member of the opposition, you're going to have this government go after you in the name of corruption.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, taking me on your show. See, this is a rhetoric we've been listening for the last 70 years here in Pakistan. And these two parties are in government directly, indirectly, they're leaders. And if you gather this duration, they were in the government from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He was in the cabinet of a dictator, Ayub Khan, in 1958 to 1966. So from that era, if you gather this time, it's to gather more than 50 years. So everybody knows in Pakistan that public money is plundered, public money is stolen. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that Pakistan at one point was a rich country. In 60s and 70s, it was growing. It was a thriving economy. People from other countries were coming, like Malaysia and other countries. They were coming to study here in Pakistan. And Pakistan, that time built some outstanding projects, from dams to roads to infrastructure. And Pakistan was one of the leading countries in the region when it comes to economic policy, economic structure. And then what happened? Pakistan is among the poorest countries right now.
Right. But
so
Shahbaz,
who would be the responsible for all this?
Shahbaz, allow me to come in here for a second.
50.
Okay, so it's interesting. But at a time when the economy is not doing well, the IMF is looming, inflation is high, the economy is a mess, it's going to be difficult to get parliamentary agreement on a new budget. It is a convenient time to blame those who used to be in power in the past and say, well, they stole, that's why the economy is a mess, rather than having to come up with creative solutions to fix the economy now, right?
No, not at all. The more convenient is to shake hand with them, which is the custom here in Pakistani democracy. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. People get together, they give each other turns. 5 years is your turn, 5 years is my turn. And this is absolutely incorrect, which Mr. Miftah Ismail is saying, that there is only one-sided accountability. Just a couple of days ago, our forest minister, who was not actually directly involved in that, maybe indirect involvement, because the time that contract materialized, he was already not the minister at that time. He got arrested. Before that, our most senior minister here in the province of Punjab, Mr. Imran Khan, he got arrested and he was in jail. They are talking about Shahbaz Sharif. He didn't spend even a week in jail. He's on the production orders, or he's in London walking and taking coffee and drinking coffee in the cafes. So actually, the real thing is in our local currency, before these two governments came, People's Party and PML-N, in last 10 years, they took 24 trillion loan and they actually bankrupted this economy. When they got the government in 2013, our current account deficit was $2.5 billion. When they left it with us, and Mr. Miftah Ismail was very much the captain of economy at that time when they left the government, and it was 19 billion. Exports gone down, imports gone up, our budget deficit grown. So it's not convenient for us to go for this path. Nowhere, even in Turkey or in Malaysia or in United States, where in the state of Illinois, 3 ex-governors are in the prison right now because of the corruption. So nowhere it is easy to go for accountability. But Mr. Imran Khan, who's the Prime Minister, 23 years ago, he raised this slogan that he's going to work against corruption. That is what he's doing.
Okay. And Miftah, I'll give you a chance to respond in a second, but I want to bring in Zahid Hussain. So Zahid Hussain, if you can hear me. So what is it? Is it a case of Imran Khan really rooting out corruption, taking it seriously for the first time in this country and sorting it out? Or is he just settling scores with opposition politicians and former leaders? Or is it maybe a little bit of both at the same time?
Well, there is no doubt that corruption is a major issue in Pakistan. But the way the whole campaign is being run, not only now, but in the past too, has always been very selective. And it has been used actually as a weapon to subdue or actually to silence the opposition. We have seen in the past when the National Accountability Bureau was established during military government, we have seen actually some of the people who cases were filed, they were actually let out when they joined the government camp. So I think there's a big question mark about the whole process, how it is being conducted, and this has been very, very controversial. Well, actually, I think this so-called accountability process has not started under Imran Khan's government. It has been going on for the last 2-3 years. But the problem with Imran Khan's government is that he talks at one point, it's a very contradictory. On one side, he says that NAB is an autonomous body, NAB is nothing to do with the government. On the other side, actually, he wanted NAB to accelerate the process. I think the problem is not that corruption should be eradicated. It is actually a problem. But the thing is that whether the campaign or the cases meet the
but Zahid, for example, you say it's selective, right? But if we look at Asif Ali Zardari, the former president and Benazir Bhutto's widower, his nickname, Mr. 10%, has been around for, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years. His reputation and alleged dodginess has long preceded this campaign right now of going after him, right? So it didn't just come out of nothing when Imran Khan came into office. So with that in mind, isn't it a bit unfair to say this is a selective witch hunt against the opposition?
Well, actually, I'm not saying, look, actually, I'm not going to detail whether the charges against Asif Ali Zardari was right or not. But the thing is that we have seen him in prison for 11 years. There were very serious charges against him. But the way the whole trial took place, he was never been convicted. There was a conviction in Swiss court, but it was also actually went into petition. So what my point is that, yes, actually, there's no doubt about that some of the charges against the politicians may be right. But basically how it is being used, if there is a fair process of accountability, then nobody will be objecting to it. But the problem is that we have seen in Pakistan that this that anti-corruption campaign starts sometime and then cools off. So, like for example, I'll give you an example. Actually, in Sindh province, about 3 or 4 years ago, they arrested a very close associate of Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, Dr. Asim. He had been a former minister, cabinet minister, and so he was kept in jail for 1 year. And they came out a case against him about of corruption of about 400 billion rupees.
I see.
And now 2 years have passed, and we have not seen anything coming up.
Okay.
So whether those cases were concocted, they're cooked up, or basically the way the trial takes place, or they do not have evidence.
Okay.
So the point is that, yeah.
Yeah, but that's an
point
interesting
is
question. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I want to come in here, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. I want to bring in Miftah Ismail to the point that Shahbaz Gill made. He gave the example of the Minister of Forestry, or Minister of Punjab for Forestry, Wildlife and Fisheries, Mohammed Imran Khan. PTI in jail, arrested for corruption. Doesn't that debunk your claim, Miftah, that this government and the NAB is only going after the opposition?
I wish it would have debunked my claim, but it doesn't, unfortunately. You know how in America they used to always hire, maybe in corporations, they would have one African American in the board just to show him off. You know, they used to call him the token black. So this was just the token sort of thing that they've done. In reality, they have Nawaz Sharif, Shahbaz Sharif in jail. Shahbaz Sharif has gotten bail. His son is in jail. And all these, I mean, three nights ago, after the budget was presented, the Prime Minister came on TV at the midnight hour. I didn't know what was the urgency. And then he says that he's going to form a commission because the opposition has taken a lot of debt over the last 10 years. Well, the fact of the matter is that Prime Minister's government this year has created the highest absolute deficit in the history of Pakistan. And in fact, in the 9 years that Muslim League or Nawaz Sharif has been Prime Minister, never have we run such a high deficit, even as a percentage of GDP, as they have this year. They have taken this year 5,000 billion rupee debt, or 6,000 billion rupee debt plus liability. This is the highest ever, and this is more than twice the speed of Muslim League, any year in Muslim League. And they've actually taken more debt in just this 1 year than the first 40 years, than the debt taken by the first governments of Pakistan in the first 40 years of Pakistan. So for them to then say that because we took a lot of debt, that's why we stole money, so then logically, obviously, then that they've taken more debt in this 1 year, so they must have stolen money also. And if we were so corrupt, and this is what the claim has been all along, then when Imran Khan comes to power this year and supposedly all money laundering, all corruption ends, then why aren't we seeing, you know, milks of rivers and honey? Why aren't we seeing savings in the government budget? Why is the government running a higher budget ever?
They blame your legacy. Right. Okay. So Shahbaz Gill, come in.
Okay, thank you so much. Miftah, give me a break. What are you talking about? You're talking about that they are hiring one Afro-American on the board just to show off. Why didn't you do that? Did you only wanted all white men on the board? Why didn't you have courage to arrest at least one person in your 35 years of your party's whole tenure? Why you guys didn't have a courage to arrest one or two guys from during your tenures? Why you guys in your parties even denied Supreme Court of Pakistan not to even write a single letter to Swiss authorities to investigate the corruptions? That was your time. That era is ended with Prime Minister Imran Khan. Prime Minister Imran Khan struggled for 23 years to get to end this getaway attitude which you guys were bringing in. And today, when our own minister, it's Aleem Khan, it's even in the federal, the people those are facing the investigations are here in the provincial assembly. Some are behind the bars, some are facing the investigations. We are not blaming any Supreme Court. We are not attacking Supreme Court like your party. We are not abusing Supreme Court judges. We are not doing any such thing. Rather, we are accepting the rule of law. We are letting the investigating agencies to do it, the investigation fairly. Another point I want to make, Mr. Miftah incorrectly saying at your forum that we borrowed 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 billions. This is completely false and incorrect figure. We borrowed 2.6 trillion, which is 2,600 billion. And that is because we were supposed to pay back $9 billion this year. Next 3 years, $24 billion, and 5 years, $39 billion, which is the actually largest in South Asia. One more thing, Pakistani intelligentsia, unfortunately, most of them, those belong to left ideology. They are intellectually corrupt. They always yell against corruption. They always demand something against corruption. And when any time, any operation, any investigation starts against corruption, they always say, oh, well, there is a corruption, but the process is not fair.
Okay.
We have our reservations about its fairness. And some hypocrite Western democracies, those always talk about human rights when we do these investigations. They always give shelter to those plundered and theft this all money, and they stolen this all money, and they
and that would be a good discussion.
Deposited in their banks.
I think it would be.
It's many
enough.
countries.
Okay,
they are
Shahbaz.
sheltering those people,
Shahbaz,
not understanding. Only last comment. Not understanding that this stolen money belongs to very poor people,
right,
and that is actually the violation of very basic human rights.
Okay, Miftah, your response.
I hear this and I see this, this quasi-fascism talk coming out, I mean, from these people. I mean, seriously, the fact that, all the intelligentsia are leftist and all the intelligentsia are intellectually dishonest and all these people, I mean, come on, for the love of God. These people are, trying to be self-righteous. They actually have, I mean, I know these numbers better than I think most people, that 5,000, they will have increased our debt by 5,000 billion or debt plus liability by 6,000 billion by the end of this month, in the next 10 days, when the numbers come out. We can give account for every single penny spent in our year, but they have actually increased debt by 10 billion, by so much money, a record this year. And for them to say that we are paying back our debt, that's not true, because they're actually increasing the total debt level. If they were paying back the debt, the total debt would be going down. Total debt is going up. Every government, I mean, we've been paying People's Party's debt. People's Party was paying Musharraf's debt. But the interesting point is that they always talk about, since Musharraf. They don't want to touch about Musharraf, because half of the people in their government are from Musharraf. Then the other half are from People's Party. Imran Khan talks about new Pakistan, but his finance minister is the People's Party finance minister.
Okay.
He voted for the deputy chairman from People's Party. Sorry.
Okay, there's a debate about past and present.
I would like to jump in quickly.
Hold on, Shahbaz, for a second. I want to bring in Zahid Hussain for a second here, because I want to ask a question that's perhaps on a deeper level here. So, okay, you round up people and you put them in jail for corruption. Does it actually do anything to solve corruption, or is corruption more deeply embedded? And is it more difficult to properly dismantle networks of corruption, Zahid?
Well, actually, I think probably, again, the question is not that there's no corruption in Pakistan. Yes, actually, there has been, Pakistan is one of those countries where corruption is very deep-rooted. But what we are discussing here is the process, the way the whole campaign is being run, the whole, even NAB laws, they do not provide, this justice to people or people who have been accused of. The problem is that whenever there's any government comes, they accuse the other government or the previous government for all the problems in the country. But when they come to power, they try to do exactly the same thing. I'm not against a campaign against corruption, but what is the problem is that the NAB itself has become very controversial. And even actually those people who were directly involved in corruption, they are acquitted sometime, and then actually it also gives an accuse that the trial was not fair. I think the thing is that, number one, is the trial process is fair? I don't think that. Some of the people who have been arrested by NAB, they have not even been charged, and they were picked up before even being charged, and it never happens in any other country. Okay. You can pick up people when they are actually, when you have already prepared charges against them, and enough evidence are against them. But basically, what we are witnessing in Pakistan, the people have been in NAB custody for months and years before actually the charge is
Understood.
framed.
Zahid?
And that's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got to move on. So listen, this debate is not going to go away anytime soon, and I'd love to have you all back on the program sometime soon. Whether the opposition and former leaders are scapegoats, or whether Imran Khan's doing the right thing and cleaning up the country in the necessary way. For the moment, I have to move on, but I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers.